State your full name and place of birth.
Francis Stanley Zarnicki Jr.
All right, and
Peabody, Massachusetts.
You were born in Peabody?
Yep.
Really? Where in Peabody?
J.B. Thomas Hospital.
What is that now?
J.B. Thomas Hospital.
Still?
I think so.
I've never heard of it.
It's right off Peabody Square.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even know there was a hospital in Peabody. Well, you
Not
learned...
a very big hospital.
No, apparently not. Well, apparently I instantly learned something new. And tell me, who was your mother and father?
Lucille Zarnicki and Francis Stanley Zarnicki Sr.
All right. Let's start with him. Who were his parents?
My grandfather or grandmother's first name, I always called them Jeddick and Bubchi.
Well, wait a second. Your grandfather's first name was Alexander.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It was Alexander. Yeah.
Wow.
See, I never called him that.
I understand.
I never. And my grandmother's first name was a Polish name, and I really don't remember how to pronounce it. WJOD something. Very strange name. I mean, a real Polish name, and that was my grandfather's second wife.
Really?
Yeah. And then there was my father.
Frank.
Yeah. And then his brother Steve. No, I'm sorry. It was my father, his sister Wanda, my uncle Steve, my uncle Eddie, and sister Josephine.
Who just passed away.
Who just passed away, yeah. Matter of fact, they're all gone. My mother's dad and his wife used to live on Loring Avenue.
In Salem.
In Salem.
Their names were...
Jeez.
Wasn't it Emile?
Emile, and I don't know her mother's name because I never met her mother. Her mother died when my mother was like 3 or 4 years old. And until I was about 6 months old, and then they got their own apartment on Derby Street and lived there until I went into high school.
You remember the number?
The street number of Derby Street? Yeah, 127. And it was, so I pretty much grew up on Derby Street. And then when I went to high school, they got another apartment that was near the railroad station in Salem. And it was like about a half a mile from the high school. Yeah. Before that, when they lived on Derby Street, when they first moved into Derby Street, it was what they called a cold water flat. Okay, it had no heat. The only heat was from a kerosene bottle that was onto the back of the stove, and you used to light a burner, and that would give off the heat and heat primarily the kitchen. When it got real cold, it never went far enough to reach the other rooms. So you used to have to get dressed in the morning in the winter in front of the stove, put your socks and your shoes in the oven, and go wash up, and then you'd come back and sit in front of the stove and put your shoes and socks on. And the living room was the farthest room away, so in the wintertime we froze meat in there. It was the only time that you could really buy meat and keep it for any length of time, because all you had was an ice box then. You didn't have a refrigerator. So if you wanted to buy meat, you usually bought it for that day and you ate it. But in the wintertime, you could take it and put it in this room and freeze it, and because there was no heat in the room, and if you closed the door, it was just like a freezer.
Mm. What was Salem like back then?
Salem was a nice town. It was a comfortable place to grow up. It was a little town. The town the town was separated into groups. One section was Italian, one section was Polish, one section was Irish, one section was French, and then you had a very small section that were black. And it wasn't so much a segregated town as far as people intermingling with people, as much as it was just when people settled, they always settled with their people, you know. There was a park, the Salem Willows, where I mean, if you lived in any part of Salem as a kid, you were at the Willows during the summer. I mean, it was the place to go and hang out, and play in the arcade, or go swimming, or, you know, baseball, whatever, tennis courts. Every year they used to have, after the summer, after you got out of school for the summer, they used to have a picnic called the Reed Fun Picnic. And it was this family, the Reeds, who lived in the Willows, that started this thing even before I went to school. And what they would do is, you would get a ticket at the end of the school year, and they would have the date on that the picnic was going to be at. And they would hold it down the Willows at the tennis courts, and you'd walk in one side of the tennis court, and then you walk out the other side. And as you walked in, you would pick up a lunch and milk and some kind of little prize and, you know, bag lunch and stuff, and then you'd go out in the park and eat it. And then all the rides were free, you know, for the day. And I don't know when they stopped.